because those are qualities, not the popular girls. What is a class act? Today, Radha had asked that I talk about what it means to be classy. You know, how they say she's a class act. This person is so classy. So very clearly, the first thing that kind of strikes you when you see a person is their outerwear. How they are dressed and how they present themselves makes a big difference. That is the very first impression that you're going to get out of a person. How they're dressed, how they present themselves. As soon as you see somebody wearing orange robes, you expect certain kind of behavior, certain kind of words coming out of their mouth. You see somebody in a suit, you see somebody in a Prada dress. Accordingly, you expect in your mind certain kinds of behavior you associate with the way people present themselves. And usually, when you think of somebody as classy, you really mean someone who walks in grace, someone who is elegant, presents themselves well, and someone you totally admire, because those are qualities that you long for in your life. But if we go beyond the facade of just the clothes they wear, because the person that was a class act for me was Gandhiji. He barely wore any clothes. He wore just his little dhoti, nothing on top. That's how he dressed. So if I just was to go by clothes, then he would be the half-naked fakir, as he was called by Winston Churchill. But he was so much more than that. So what more are we talking about? A person that is classy is one who respects the thoughts, the feelings of others. A class act is a person who understands the feelings of different groups of people that they are talking to and listens to them. He respects what they're going through and he wants to pause and hear what they have to say. He's not about talking all the time and getting himself heard. He or she is not arrogant, but very humble. That's the word that will come to your mind. After you see somebody and you think, oh my God, for all that person has achieved, they're so humble. And that's appealing. That's appealing, even though in today's day and age, they teach you to be aggressive and out there and getting the last word. And, especially at meetings, they're telling women, don't sit quietly. You make sure you make your point. In order to be heard, you have to make sure that you're out there and loud. Yet, in our hearts, the person we admire most is the one that actually listens to us. The friend that you love the most or you have most respect for is not the one who shouts you down. What is classy is to be able to listen to someone else even though you don't agree with them. To be able to be criticized by someone and smile or even praise the person. Now that sounds ridiculous. What do you mean praise someone who criticizes you? That's like offensive, like people are being offensive. People are saying mean things to you and you praise them. It puts people on the back foot. Especially I've seen that at when I do checkout counters and I see so many people like fighting and you're waiting to get done and somebody loses their temper and I say something nice to the girl. Her mood completely changes. She's like, you like the color of my lipstick? Oh, yeah, it switches completely from the stress of her job into something much nicer. Those are the kind of people that you want to go after. Not the popular girls, not the arrogant ones, not the ones that have got people around them, not the people in power. The classy person will have an aura but not power. Will have an aura that you get attracted to, that you get identify with. And this is one of the reasons that cults develop, because they get drawn into the aura, and then it doesn't matter what that person says or does, whether it's right or wrong. The offense is taken to me. You're talking to me, like you're being rude to me. That's my identity. If you say anything about, the cult I belong to, then you're out. You're out. So then, when you admire something that you've always wanted to do or to be, that becomes your identity. And it doesn't matter if it's good for some people or bad for others. So I cannot tell you that you're going to admire only gentle people. No, that may not be what you want. You might admire the one that's in your face. And that's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. I'm here telling you what I feel is a class act. The person who has a class act is very authentic and real. I always felt that I looked at authors and I would wonder how they would turn out 4, 5, 10 books in a year. And I find it difficult to do even 1 in 3 years, right? Because for me, my writing has to be completely authentic and real. It has to come out. I have to come out in my writing, right? To be authentic, to be real, that's the person that you're going to get very close to. You're going to say, that is really a class act. Thoughtful communication. Most often, most of us react to everything. Someone tells you something, oh no, you're wrong. It's actually this. No, you're wrong. It's actually, how many times do we say that? We never agree with something someone else is saying because we've listened or we've watched one part of the picture and they know another part of the picture. It's like that different, that thing about the elephant. I don't know if you've ever heard that analogy when 5 blind men were given an elephant. I think it's a Buddhist story. And each one touched a different part of the elephant and they described it differently. Now, is everybody right or everybody wrong? I'm right and you're wrong? No, there are different aspects to reality. A thoughtful communicator takes into consideration the other person's feelings and knows when to hold back and knows when to speak. Like when you do a meditation, even when I'm doing a meditation, if I speak continuously, it's going to be hard for you to get into a meditative state. You're going to need those pauses in order to get into a meditative state, right? Thoughtful communication is so important because it shows emotional intelligence. It shows that you don't just react. And all of us, we're all waiting to react. We react to everything. And all the news that's out there wants you to be shocked, wants you to react, wants you to get distracted so they can do something else, that you don't know is happening. Right? And while you're so busy reacting, the real stuff gets done. The real damage gets done. A thoughtful communicator will not go that route. A thoughtful communicator will think about what you're going through. What is it that you're going through? Is it a rough patch? Have you lost your money? Are you going through a health issue? There are times that you tell someone to be hopeful, to hope for the best. And there are times that you tell someone to accept what's coming. Both pieces of advice are excellent. When you're faced with some news, when you're dealing with something that is out of your control, perhaps a bodily illness, perhaps you've lost a loved one, perhaps you've lost some money, perhaps you've lost a job, perhaps you lost a friend, a friendship broke up, right? At that time, to tell someone it's okay, you'll find another friend. Sometimes that can feel devastating. Don't tell anyone who lost a dog you can buy another dog. Ever. Ever. Don't ever say that to them if you know what's good for you. Because you don't understand the depth of feeling that they're going through. So at the time, a thoughtful communicator will show that a class act is not saying that, it's okay, get over it, buy another dog, get over it. There are hundreds of jobs out there. Yeah, that's hurtful. That's hurtful. What is a class act is to be able to tell when to stay silent, when to give someone a hug, when to give tough advice. Because that is also important. There's going to come a time when you have to accept whatever's happening in your life. The pain, the anxiety, the anger, the denial, all that comes first. And then there's a point at which if for your own mental health, someone needs to pull you up. Someone needs to. You can't do it on your own, not always. Somebody. And sometimes that best friend, that mother-in-law, that spouse, whom you get very angry with, say, how can you say this? How can you tell me to accept it? Is giving you the best advice. Sometimes when things are really bad, the advice would be to stay and go through it. And we admire people like that. We admire. We put them on a pedestal. My God, how they go through it. My God, how they put up with it. I have a friend who takes care of her mother-in-law and her father-in-law and her mother, and she has no life of her own, and we all get together and we say she's really a class act. I could not follow that act. I could not be that person. And it takes a certain character. But before she completely burns out, somebody needs to pull her out and say, you really don't have to do this all the time. You can get your breaks. You need to get your breaks. Because you're not the only child. There are other children. Share with them, See if you can share. This has to be, so the class act is not staying and suffering always, although that might be one of the solutions. But the class act might be to be confronted with a really difficult situation and walk away. Leave it. It's not my problem anymore. I've done enough. Water's above my head. I'm leaving. I don't need to see this anymore. I don't need to be here. I don't need to deal with it. Both actions are classy. Classy people do that. They know when to stay and they know when to leave. Yeah. And this is the wonderful thing about a guru and truth and all of it. A guru will only point you the way, will not give you the solution. Never. Because no situation is unique. Everybody, as I'm talking, one is thinking about health, one is thinking about husband, one is thinking about work, one is thinking about friends, one is thinking about clothes. All of you are thinking different things. Connecting what I'm saying with your own personal situation. So how can I describe what a class act is? Because what it is for me might not be for you. And what it is in one situation is not in every situation. So there I have gone and explained what it is and then confused the whole thing by just taking back everything and saying it's all of it. A class act is giving comfort, giving sound advice. And we go to different people in our lives. We respect different people in our lives for different things. There are people we respect for the way they dress. There are certain others we respect for the way they communicate. There are others that we respect for the kind of advice that they give, that whether it's timely or not timely, whether it's pertinent or not pertinent. So there is no one single class act. But for me, the one thing that is much more important than anything else is how kind a person is. How they react to the poor, to the underprivileged, to the ones that don't have everything. That to me decides in a flash what their true nature is, whether they're all in it for themselves or they're in it to help the others. In the long run, we're all going to die. Yeah, we're all going to die. What are you going to carry with you in your subtle body? All this money, all this arrogance, all the fights, all the beautiful clothes, the Prada, the fancy cars, it's all going to get left behind. You leave behind a legacy of kindness. Your words, your acts, what you do for others, that is all that remains. That's how you remember someone. So how do you want to be remembered? As a class act or a classist act? Om Namah Shivaya.